Welcome to Discovering. Tonight we'll pay a visit to a camp that dates back to the early 1940s.
In 1941, when they bought this camp, this was a logging camp.
We'll take a look at a buck that was shot a few years back with, well, a lot of points. Put your feet up and relax. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
In 1941, the average wage was just over $4,000. A new car was $850. A gallon of gas cost 12 cents. And Don Johnson got together with some friends and purchased 400 acres of land in this camp for $750.
Victor Lardenoit was the beer distributor for Budweiser in the Norway Iron Mountain area. And he was in Jake Smith's Tavern in Iron Mountain one day making a delivery. And as he was going about his business, he overheard somebody at the bar say to the bartender, "Do you know anybody that would be interested in buying a camp with 1040s for $750? At that time, Vic didn't belong to anybody's camp or anything, but yet he was an avid hunter. So he had to round up a crew if he wanted to buy the camp. So he got a hold of my dad, Helmer Johnson, and 5 other guys were part of Camp Lindy. They bought that camp in 1928, and they named it Lindy because that was the time of the year when Lindy flew across the ocean. He told them what the deal was. Well, they thought it was pretty good, so they decided that, well, they could leave Camp Lindy and come to Camp 41. They got a nice new camp then. Oscar Trelius was a butcher. Henry Ebling was a butcher. Paul Hoheisel was a baker. Martin Anderson was a dry goods owner. Charlie Angebush was a officer for the mining company. Cliff Sharkey worked for Ford Motor Company, and Joe Van Kerkhove came from Milwaukee. I don't know what he did. Well, anyhow, that was the nucleus of the camp. In 1941, when they bought this camp, this was a logging camp. Supposedly, it was at one time on the Foster City Road. I know not where, but it was moved up here. So undoubtedly, it was in sections. So it cost each one of them $135 was to their share of the camp. Deal was there that as each person should happen to pass away, their $135 would go back to the wife. It went on like that for years until it got to the point where the only 2 left of the camp was my dad, Helmer Johnson, and Vic Lardenoit. Victor Lardenoit had a son, Ernie Lardenoit, who was the same age as I am, and I'm 91. We were the only 2 left, so Vic said to my dad, "Snaky, He said, why, instead of waiting for each one of us to die, why don't we just turn the camp over to the kids? So they turned it over to Ernie and I. Before Ernie died, we were in the same situation. Well, I mean, we were getting to the point where we're going to be done pretty quick too. So we turned it over to our kids. That's how the camp has gone on for years, and hopefully for many more years through the younger generation. Our camp road at that time was 16 or 18 miles, all on a two-rut road. You couldn't get through here in wintertime. You had to put chains on to get here at the Swan Peterson Road. That's how bad the road was. You had to make sure that you had chains with you, because as you were hunting here and you got in the snow, you really had to have chains to get out of here. It used to take us better than 2 hours to come to camp. At the present time, we do it in an hour or less. There was no such a thing as pickup trucks at that time. During their days of hunting, they always, the first day of season, whoever saw the first deer, other than a buck, they shot for camp meat. That was a ritual. Then they would take it, and then they would skin it out, and they would hang it in the swamp, and that was camp meat for the camp, for season. At that time, we had the whole area to hunt. There wasn't a camp in the area. So they pretty well had a free rein here. There was no such a thing as baiting or anything back then. And at that time too, you also got a bear license with your deer license. Oh, and also years ago, each one that came to camp brought his own bottle of whiskey or his own bottle of brandy, because whoever shot the deer, when they got home at night from the hunt, they all stand around the table and had a shot on their particular buck they got. At that time, like I said, everybody had to bring their own bottle. Now we got as much booze there as the bars got, so we don't have to worry about that. Vic was the butcher. There was a man, I went with him one day. He shot a deer, and he came in to get help. And I walked out to the swamp to help him. Well, he had a little knife about so long with a little short blade on it. He took and he skinned out this deer, completely skinned it out, took it out of the hide, opened up the hide, laid the deer down, quartered it. There wasn't one speck of hair on there. You'd think he was a neurosurgeon. And then all the deer that they shot during hunting season, when season was over, they would take it to Ebling's grocery store, because Henry Ebling was the butcher, and they'd have a night that they spent at the store, and they would cut the deer up and box it all up, and each one got their equal share regardless of who shot the deer. They all got an equal share of the deer that were shot. Nowadays, whoever shoots the deer, well, they go home with theirs, and it's up to them to do it. But those years ago, they went all to the butcher shop, and he did it for nothing. They never came to camp before hunting season. Maybe a week or 2 weeks before that, they'd come up here, and the grass was 2 feet high on the road when it was before they got here. And when they got here, they had to cut the grass, and the sickle is up there on the wall that they used to cut the grass with. Well, then they would spend that whole day making wood for the camp for the upcoming hunting season. Then the next time they came to camp was hunting season. Some of them were able to spend the 2 weeks up here, but the majority of them spent 1 week up here. We had Paul Hoheisel had Hoheisel's Bakery, and he had a van that he used to come up here with. Well, my dad took it home, and he put false panelings in there, inside this thing, so that they could smuggle deer out of here. But in those days, the DNR used to have a checkpoint as soon as you got off the Foster City Road, just before you hit the highway at Waseda, they had a roadblock. Well, they'd search your vehicle, make you open up your trunk and everything to make sure you didn't have any illegal deer in them or anything. But with the bakery truck, we could go right through. Never no problem.
We don't have running water in here. And there's a spring that runs down the hill, and we have some cribs made to settle out the sand and whatever. And when I was very young and came here, we drank the water. We bring it in here in 5-gallon buckets, and we would drink it. I never thought anything of it. Of course, we don't do that anymore. We bring water from home, but we still haul in, and usually we have the younger people hauling in the buckets of water.
60-year-olds.
The 60-year-olds instead of the 69-year-olds. And then we have some of the 30-year-olds that do it, but we haul that in and we use that for doing dishes and washing up and that sort of thing. We have outside plumbing.
The walls in this camp now are all paneled with coffin boxes. And years ago, coffins used to come in boxes, and they used to get or the local undertaker, they used to go and get these boxes, and this is what they lined all the walls in our camp with.
We still cook breakfast on the wood stove, fire that up in the morning, and fry eggs and bacon and potatoes and pancakes. It's quite an experience. But I learned, my dad was the breakfast cook until not too long ago, and then I kind of took over for him, and I do the breakfast cooking now. But we've tried to keep the camp pretty much as it was for all these years, and that's what we like about it. Some guys like all of the amenities and like to have nice new things, and we just think it's part of the character of this camp, and all of the guys that have been members of this camp over these 75 years, and we like to keep it pretty much as it was. And I think all of us really appreciate that, and when we come to camp, it's really coming to camp, and we are kind of roughing it. Whenever everybody's together at camp, everybody has a good time and everybody gets along, and it's never been an issue here. So camp has always been a place that's have positive feelings for everybody, and we do enjoy coming up here. We enjoy coming up here, just our family, and I think Franny and Donnie do too, but when all of us are together, we have just as good a time. It's not, we want this, you want that, or we wish we had this, or we want to do that, and it's never been anything of that with any of the families. It's we've always gotten along and have always had a good time, and all of us look forward to deer season when we all get together and spend a week or more together here. And other than going out hunting, you're stuck here. There's nothing else, so you you talk, you play cards, you interact, you know, everybody gets along and likes everybody as a personal friend, as well as being a co-owner in this camp. Everybody is a personal friend as well. And I think that's what's very important about this camp as well. And has always been that way as far as I know. When I was a kid, we used to come up here, and as a kid I didn't have any concept of you know, where you were kind of thing, except that camp to me was here, that we were out in the middle of nowhere. And there were no camps anywhere near here. A lot of state land and paper company land, there was just nobody around. We were the only ones for miles. And it was just neat to get out here and be away from everything. And my cousins would come up and we'd go out and play in the trees out here, and it was just awesome to come up here and came with my grandma and my grandpa Helmer, and you know, they would be chopping wood and, you know, putzing around the camp, and we'd be out playing around. But it was just, and to this day I have that feeling, even though there are camps here, just I guess because that's the way I really remember camp, and when it really sunk into me how important this was to our family. I still get that same feeling, like you're away from everything, even though I have my cell phone with me. You just seem to be out in the wilderness and be able to be communing with nature and appreciating the smells and the sound of the wind blowing through the pine trees here. At night, when you lay in your bunk and the pine trees are out there and you hear the wind kind of just whispering through the pines, or you go outside and with no ambient light, you look up and the stars are as bright here as they are anywhere. And few rare occasions I've seen the northern lights in the sky up here are just gorgeous. And when the moon is out, and it's just a real almost spiritual feeling to be up here, and relaxing. And you know, all your cares and things you worry about at home seem to kind of melt away, and you're just here, and you're a part of the camp, and you're a part of the area, and it's just soul inspiring, I think.
It's just so peaceful up here. You're away from telephones, and you're away from traffic, and you're just out in God's wilderness.
All the pancakes you made me to eat.
Yeah. Here's Jack Osborne.
Jack Osborne.
Schmack's good.
Yeah.
On one of my trips through the Bruce Crossing area, I had the chance to stop in for a look at a nice 17-point buck shot back in 2011.
Well, I was checking out another spot for hunting because I was bummed out at my spot because I didn't find no big deer tracks there. And I was coming back from another spot, and it was there was a fawn in a clear cut standing there. So I backed up to see what it was, and it was a doe fawn. And I thought this was a mother laying by it. So I got a shell out of my pocket, opened up the pickup, jumped out, shot. It got up to take off running, I shot, and it went down. And it probably went maybe, I don't know, 20 yards and fell over behind a windfall. So then I had my car, so I had to come home, get my pickup, and I got Rita. Well, that's when I called Daryl and another buddy to come help us. And we went out there, and Rita went to look for it, and she kept telling me, well, it's 6-point for sure. Then she said, no, it's 8-point. And she got up there a little bit closer. She hollered back. She said, no, 12-point. And then she said, no, it's a 17-point. Then I thought she walked up. She said, no, it got 19 points on it. But it ended up being a 17-point, legal 17-point. It scores 183 and 5/8, non-typical. 227, yeah. That's the second heaviest deer I ever got. I got one 235. Muzzleloading season. Yeah, that's a dandy. I'm gonna get a bigger one yet, though.
I think there's one of mine in there too. And we have a on Bernie's buck.
Camp is certainly more than just a place to hang your hat. It's a place where memories are made.
My dad bought a Philco radio. It was about this long, about that thick, and about that high, and it was a battery-operated radio, and he brought that up here, and it was just a big deal when we come up here to listen to the radio at the camp. We couldn't believe it. No, it was clear.
It's a place where traditions are upheld, where stories are told year after year.
Turn around and look, bear chasing, and you'll run into a tree.
But most importantly, it's a place that brings family and friends together. Across the UP right now, on this night before deer season, there are most certainly generations of families and friends sitting around the table playing cards, laughing and telling old stories. A couple of years ago, I visited Camp White Ash, where I had the pleasure of hanging out with the Kelly crew. Unfortunately, they lost a couple members of their family since, so I'd like to pay special tribute to Bruce and Tim Kelly. I think if they could pass on any advice to us right now, it would be enjoy your time at camp. Enjoy your time hunting. Enjoy your time in the woods. And most of all, enjoy your time with each other.
The best part of it, Dad, is having everybody together and enjoying themselves and no problems. Never had any problems in this camp. We had a lot of work to do. The biggest part of my was with my wife and the kids. Of all the years that we spent here, we never had any problems whatsoever. So that was the best part of it. We had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and a lot of good times.
Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to keep tabs on what's coming up on Discovering or see where we've been, go to 906outdoors.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovering.